Pittsburgh Steeler fans, welcome back to another episode of the Scho Bro Show. It's Tuesday night. It's just after 9 p.m. I'm behind the steel curtain editor, Dave Schofield. And with me, as always, is my big brother, Rich. Rich, how's it going tonight?
If you saw The Hangover last night, it's like I just kissed my sister.
Just like you kissed your sister. Yeah, we might be repeating a little bit of some stuff from The Hangover, but we're going to get some bros perspective. We're going to talk about some things. We're going to talk about some general things. First, I want to apologize. It is slightly after 9. It's, sometimes we don't start till just after 9, but I got held up a little bit before the show tonight because something in my life I never thought I would do is that I was caught up tonight with my family celebrating a birthday for our dog. It's our dog's birthday. Skywalker, that's our Augie. She is 1 year old today. No, we haven't had her 1 year. She was born one year ago today. That's the date they were giving us. I burst my daughter's bubble today. I'm like, they might have just made up that date when they put it down whenever we got her. I'm like, we don't really know if she was born on this day or not. They might have been a ballpark, but anyway, we're going with it. So we had a dog birthday party. Not the silliest birthday party you've ever been to, right, Rich?
No. You've had sillier ones.
I've had sillier ones. That's correct.
We used to have one every year on vacation for Dave's teddy bear.
For the teddy bear. Yep. And now here's the family trivia. He was the same age every year. How old was he?
12.
Nope, he was 19.
Oh, that's right, 19. I couldn't remember.
It was always 19.
Yeah.
So, yeah, he was 18. But so we've had sillier birthday parties. But we had to sing happy birthday to the dog and get the dog some special happy birthday like dog biscuit thing. Anyway, so not only did it hold me up, now it held us up even more because you all actually had to hear about it. So let's move on. Rich, the Pittsburgh Steelers were on the field on Sunday. They were on the field.
Were they?
Well, no, they were on the field. They were on the field. We didn't say that they battled on the field or anything like that. Oh, Rich. Well, first of all, were you glad you weren't there? It looked kind of miserable, didn't it?
Yeah, I was glad I wasn't bad.
Yeah, I mean, I haven't talked to him about actually being there because I kind of felt bad because they said it was like the first real wintry day for November-like day in Pittsburgh.
It was supposed to be snow.
It was even supposed to possibly snow earlier in the day. Yeah,
it was to be snow, not rain during the game. It's raining at the game. It was snowing here.
Yeah. Oh yeah, you had snow at your house, Rich.
Yeah.
I have to do it. Steeler Chick 46 wants to know, what was my teddy bear named? His name was Frankie.
Yep.
That was his name. And I actually still have him and the terrible sewing job on his foot from where you ripped it off. while mom and dad were at church and we were at our grandparents' house and you didn't want to get in trouble for ripping the foot off my teddy bear. He's buried in a box somewhere.
How old was I when I sewed that back on? Like 8 or 9?
Yeah, because I would have been 4 or 5.
Yeah. So yeah.
So let's just.
It was a pretty good job for someone who had never sewed anything before. I stitched that leg back on that teddy bear.
And the stitches were quite large. But anyway,
they were, but they held.
This is our family show. This is brothers talking. So this is us. But yeah, I was supposed to be at this game. I was supposed to be there. But I had another game that I had tickets to that I still had. And when Bad was looking to be able to go, I'm like, Bad, I got it. I still got, because he asked me, he's like, do you still have tickets to the Detroit game? I said, I actually do. I'm supposed to go, but I have another game later this season. It's the Titans game. They don't even play the Texans. That now it looks like that unless something comes up that I should be attending that one. I know Tyler W., who's often in the live chat, said that he would be there. Frankie Berry. Yep. That's right. That was his name.
And of course I saw it. You know exactly where I went, right?
With the song? No,
yes.
Yeah.
Yes, the song.
That's okay. We're not singing here tonight. Although off air we do have to talk because my daughter asked me a question this week that said, if you ever did karaoke with Uncle Rich, what would you sing? I'm like, oh, I've got 3 songs. I already know what they are. But that's a different conversation for another day.
I know one of them at least. So.
Oh yeah, you know all 3 of them. Back to this game. I don't know that people realized how bad it was. They're like, oh, Detroit's barely throwing the ball. Well, first of all, Jared Goff isn't all that good. He was hurt. Some people wonder if it was a back. I heard it was ribs was his problem. But it was kind of miserable to throw the ball. It was windy. It was cold. It was raining. It was grinded out on the ground football weather, and the Steelers threw the ball 50 freaking times.
It wasn't the 45, 46 degrees in rain. It was 38 degrees and barely between rain, snow, freezing rain.
Yeah.
I mean, it was that miserable stuff.
Yeah. So, because I mean, everyone's upset about this. I mean, the Steelers look at this as a loss. We look at it as a loss, and you kind of should. The only thing that this loss does, and honestly,
we're talking about the miserable weather. I thought I'd throw Bert up there who says aloha from Maui.
Yeah, and enjoy that. Enjoy that. So, yeah, just that. I wish that would have been the weather for the Steelers on Sunday, because it made no sense to throw the ball as much as they did. I know today Coach Tomlin talked in his press conference about, he kind of blew off the question. They're like, if you have these run pass options, and even if they're low to the box and Najee's running well and everything else, they should have handed the ball off anyway. And Coach Tomlin said already, he's like, if we want a run play, we'll call a run play. It won't be a run pass option.
Right.
So to me, there's one thing to try to catch the other team off guard because your backup quarterback's throwing the ball more than you expected him to. But it kind of went a little bit too far. Can we agree with that?
Yes.
Yeah. So at Steel Dog 88 says it, puts $5 in the tip jar, said Detroit did what they had to do, which was run. Steelers did the opposite. Now, not only did they run, you say something first.
I was going to say, I could go so much deeper into that statement by Steel Dog 88. My frustration is that Detroit ran, and it took us 2 quarters before we made any kind of an adjustment to stop it.
Hey, you know what? If you want to hear all about that, I've got the perfect thing for you. Tomorrow morning at 10 a.m. Eastern at BehindTheSteelCurtain.com, your one-stop shop for all things Pittsburgh Steelers. That is the publishing time of this week's Steelers Vertex by myself and Jeffrey Benedict, where we are looking at the Steelers stopping the run, specifically 3 drives. It was 3 drives, 2 drives in the second quarter, and the opening drive of the third quarter. I mean, the majority of not just the rushing yards, but their entire offense was in those 3 drives. And it wasn't just that. It was the formation they were using. You know what they did? They did the Zach Banner. That's what they did.
Well, not just the Zach. It was the same every time. Bringing the tackle in, make him eligible, have 2 more tight ends, and stack them on top of the tackle eligible, and just loaded up that side and ran the ball right over it.
Yeah. And the problem is when you go to run the ball, when there's one more defender right there to stop it than players you have to block him, it's not going to work. When you're on defense and the other team has more blockers there than what you have for people to stop it, they're going to run the ball really well. You'll be shocked at the numbers in the film, and we broke it down, and you realize after that drive where the Lions scored their last touchdown, missed the extra point. Do you know how many rushing yards they had for the final 12 minutes of the third quarter, all of the fourth quarter, and all of overtime?
Well, I know the fourth quarter and overtime was a total of 20 yards.
They had, and they had 10 more left in that quarter there. 30 yards was all they got on the ground after that point. The Steelers figured out what to do to stop it. I'm just like, why couldn't you do it at halftime? Why did it take one more drive? But still, honestly.
There you go. That was my frustration.
Yeah.
Was that we saw it for the 2 drives in the second quarter, and they came out in the third quarter doing the same thing, and we had done nothing at halftime to fix it. I was angry.
Yeah. Or I don't know. I have to go back. I still need to edit Jeffrey's part to see how he broke it down to see the film a little bit better from the All-22. I don't know if they didn't do anything to fix it at halftime or if they didn't do the right thing. You know what I'm saying? I haven't made it that far. I'm still editing the article when we went live tonight. So I want to see exactly where he shows. They might have made an adjustment that didn't work and then had to make another one that did. I'm not sure. All I know was that I saw an awful lot of Isaiah Loudermilk in the second half. I will say that. He played his most snaps of his career. So we'll have that for you tomorrow on the website. That was something a weekly feature that Jeffrey and I do. So we'll break that down and it'll be there. So that was with the Steelers stopping the run. But when you think about it, was it disappointing that the defense just couldn't do anything at that point of the game? Absolutely. But you've also got to think that the offense has got to come up with more than 16 points in the game.
Yep.
You know, you still got to come up with more than 60 points in the game. And I know a lot of people put that at the feet of Mason Rudolph. I had the PFF article today that showed Mason Rudolph had the third highest offensive grade for the Steelers. The only players that were higher were Derek Watt in his
6 snaps.
6 snaps and what he did there. And then the only other one was, I can't even remember who it was now. I'm trying to remember. Who was the other one? It was
Dotson.
It was Dotson, who then didn't finish the game.
Right.
You know, so it was Watt who only had 6 snaps, Dotson who didn't get to finish the game, and I say didn't finish the game because Joe Hayden was the top defensive scorer who only played 9 snaps before he got hurt, and then it was Mason Rudolph. You know, and you're like, oh, how could they grade that so much? He was so inaccurate. Yeah, he was. That's one of the things where I don't necessarily understand PFF, but I'll tell you what, one of the things that helped him is he had a great run grade because it was pretty crazy seeing him run the ball the couple times that he did. You know, that's not something that Steeler fans are used to seeing.
Hey, you know what? So we're talking about the frustration of that we didn't run the ball more. There was something I put in my knee-jerk reaction article that I liked early in the game that, you know what, we quit seeing later in the game. Early in the game when the run was working, suddenly we were going Mason under center and we went play action pass. There were 3 different times.
Yep.
All 3 were complete.
Yep.
And then we quit doing it.
Yeah. You know what? That's something I did not notice when I was trying. I'll be honest with you. I got to see, how do I say it? Not that I didn't see it. It was going on. I was trying to look up. I didn't get to focus on this game hardly at all. It is the least amount of focus that I've had on a game in forever. You're probably saying, how in the world is that possible?
I know why it's possible.
Why is that possible?
Because you were too busy having to try to keep up with all the injuries going on.
My job on game day, unless I'm at the game, is I write in-game injury articles. Jeff is taking care of the live updates and things like that. Michael Beck, he's our social media guy. He's doing the tweets and everything. I'm in charge of injury updates during the game, and my goodness was I busy. I had to write too many articles. I had to update articles. It was not fun. I was at Jefferson's house. But before we get into the title of this show, we're already talking about the game. There was a couple pieces of news with the Steelers over the last couple of days. Since the game, Minkah Fitzpatrick has gone on the the reserve COVID-19 list. The way Coach Tallman talked about it today is actually getting through the protocol. They're not banking on him playing just because of moving through that. He's not going to be able to practice all week anyway. Ben Roethlisberger's still in the protocol. See, Ben Roethlisberger, he tested positive and he was symptomatic. That's why he was tested when he was. Minkah, from what I understand, Mondays are the testing days in the NFL when you play on a Sunday, and then he just showed up with a positive test. So there was that. But then today, the Chargers end up with 2 key players going on the COVID-19 list, one of which is Joey Bosa. Joey Bosa is on the list, as is, why did I lose the other player's name?
Defensive tackle.
Yeah, it's
Tully. I don't remember his name either, but yeah,
I'm trying to remember his first name.
Tilly or something.
Okay, Tilly. Yeah. Who's Jerry Tillery. Okay. He's actually one of their best defenders. He has the second most sacks behind Bosa. He's a good player, first round pick. I should have remembered his name, but I don't remember everyone's name, not me, and not with the Steelers. First round pick in 2019 draft. Very good player. Reports are out there that he's vaccinated, Bosa's not. People believe that might be that it was Tillery that tested positive, and Bosa's a close contact. At this time, we don't know if any of that's true. The protocol is the protocol, whether you agree with it or not. So just to see if they can get through and everything, it's just going to be difficult. So we'll see. So there's that. Then Coach Tomlin talked about the other injuries. They're expecting Chase Claypool to try to work back this week and to see if he can practice tomorrow. Coach Tomlin says that he expects Trey Turner to be all right after his injury. Dotson's questionable. I honestly thought maybe after the press conference today, Dotson could have even gone on IR. High ankle sprain, I could see it. But then I thought about it again. He still might end up there. But you know why I don't think he's going to go there? Steelers got 2 open roster spots right now with Roethlisberger and Minka on the COVID-19. They don't need to free up the spot.
Right.
So now you were going to say about if you think he might end up on the IR eventually.
Yeah, I was going to say you're looking at probably 3 weeks minimum. So with the high ankle sprain, I mean, and that's minimum. And a lot of times when you're talking linemen, those big guys, they need an extra week or 2 to get it. He could be out 4 or 5 weeks easily.
If it's that severe. And I was worried he was going to be out for the season because, man, did they rule him out for the game really quick.
Yeah.
He comes off the field and they ruled him out like right away. Joe Hayden was still questionable for a long time and then was ruled out. Joe Hayden's another one. They'll see how he's doing. He's up in the air. And Coach Tomlin did say about TJ Watt, he's like, that the whole thing of, he's leaving the lights on for him. He's TJ friggin' Watt, that he can do things that other people can't, even when it comes to being available. So
TJ Watt came out of the tent, grabbed his helmet. I thought he was going back in the game.
Going back in too. Yeah. I mean, he's carried his helmet. Everyone's like, oh man. So I just wanted to give those updates since the Coach Thomas press conference was today. So there was that. Getting back to the title of this show, which is a Steelers tie the terrible thing it's made out to be? Rich, first we better answer the specific question first before the general question. Go for it.
I hope Jefferson Hartman listens to this because he will love it.
He doesn't listen to YouTube shows. He listens to the audio shows. Okay, go ahead.
He should, because he will love the fact that I will give a Dave answer.
Okay.
And the answer is, it depends.
It depends. That is the answer, because this is what I'm going to say. Let's answer it specifically before we answer it generally, because generally I think it depends. Specifically for this game against the Detroit Lions,
it hurt.
Yes, because to me, anytime you're favored, especially if you're favored at home, a tie is not acceptable. Right. If you're a big underdog, especially even a big underdog on the road, and you can pull off a tie, you're like, hey, we were supposed to lose this one, and we didn't. You still want to get the win. But that's, to me, that's kind of how it is. So far this season, there have been 14 overtime games. This was the first one that ended in a tie. So I kind of want to talk a little bit now. I mean, I think this was not good. I mean, the Lions are 0-8. You're a favorite. Yes, there's a lot of other things that went on. Your starting quarterback gets ruled out on Saturday, and you got to. They say they weren't scrambling. I'm sorry, you're scrambling with Mason Rudolph. His main 2 receivers from when he played last year in Week 17. No Juju, no Claypool.
Yep.
If you were to tell me that the Steelers at Week 10, they're going to be home favorites with Mason Rudolph throwing to Ray McLeod, with Ray McLeod, Cody White, and Steven Sims lined up at receivers with J.C. Hassenauer and Joe Haig in at guards, I would have been like, oh, good Lord, or the Steelers, the 0-8 team.
Yeah.
right? I mean,
Yeah.
seriously. And the fact that the Steelers, I mean, that they should have, that we still feel that they should have won the game is honestly kind of a testament for them to overcome these things. There's just one thing they couldn't overcome. 3 turnovers, 2 of which in overtime. I mean,
the fact that they turned the ball over twice in overtime and didn't lose is a miracle.
I mean, I'm still trying to find that one. Has there ever been a team that turned the ball over multiple times in overtime and did not lose the game?
Yeah.
Well, first of all, you'd say, well, they tied or they won. That's crazy. Think of this: the Steelers had 3 drives in overtime. The first one moved it down close to field goal range, fumble. The second one, on the second play, snap goes over the head.
Yeah, lucky that wasn't a turnover.
I mean, if that's a turnover, that's game over.
Oh, yeah.
And which led to a punt. And then the third drive, right on the edge of field goal range, turnover. That was their 3 overtime possessions. You can't win with that. It's honestly, I'm still amazed that they didn't lose. But part of that was because after the last time that the Lions scored, the Steelers just shut them down again, like they did in the first quarter. So it's just, yeah, you're like, why did they give up those yards and those points to the Lions? But at the same time, if you can't score 16 points, there's not many times you're going to win the game. I mean, that 9-6 Jacksonville over Buffalo score isn't one you're going to see very often in the NFL.
Yeah, no.
So yeah, so this one stung. But in essence, all this game did was, instead of it being a loss, it takes away all the tiebreakers for the rest of the season. You don't have to worry about division record. You don't have to worry about conference record. You don't have to worry about head-to-head record, because the Steelers are either going to be a game ahead or a half game ahead or a half game behind everybody.
Exactly.
Everybody. Now, will you say later on that, oh my goodness, they're that half game back and they would have had the tiebreaker? Yeah, that could end up at the end, and that's going to royally suck. And I'm not saying that it doesn't.
Or you get somewhere at the end and it's like, oh, hey, look at that. We gained this because we didn't lose that game.
Yeah.
You know, it could suck. It can work in your favor. It could work not in your favor.
Yeah. This team, where they are right now, this is a week-to-week team, and where you just got to say, hey, I've been saying it for a while. You got to go out and see if you can beat the other team. I don't know how many of you all that are here in the live chat, I don't even know if with you, Rich, how much or you are caught up on our audio-only podcasts. Sometimes I'm days behind, but I catch up on them all eventually. But today was actually the day that I got to listen to Jeffrey Benedict's Cutting Room Floor. And he talked about something that I think is really important that Steeler fans don't want to hear. And that is, the fans, they want to blame. Oh, my goodness, Coach Tomlin can't get them ready. Oh, my goodness, Coach Canada calls terrible plays. Oh, my goodness, Coach Butler can't adjust to that. Jeffrey's like, go through the roster. This roster's not very good. The fact that they've won 5.5 games at this point is actually surprising when you look at the roster. Because if you look at, and you're like, why have they won this big game? Mainly because they're the Steelers. They've won 5.5 of their 9 games. You got to count it as a half. That's just what it is.
Yep, that's
now
what it is.
For that. So it's not like this, and he started breaking down like, you don't have TJ Watt. Look at what you have. You don't have Minka Fitzpatrick. Look at what you have. Look at who's already in there anyway. Jeffrey did a great job of breaking it down. He broke down the offensive line. He's like, do you realize the Pittsburgh Steelers have starters on the offensive line that would not make the roster in Cleveland? They wouldn't be on the roster in Cleveland. Yeah. And they are starters for the Pittsburgh Steelers. Don't even know if they could make the practice squad. And they're starting for the Steelers. So now they're getting better. They're coming together. But I mean, the Cleveland Browns are the best offensive line in the NFL. So that's one thing you're doing. That's, that's part of that reason. But he makes a really good point that, have we oversold the ability of some of this roster? I sent out a tweet. I haven't checked this since I sent it out because I don't even know if I have people commenting on it or not. So we'll see. I sent out this tweet earlier tonight. This kind of crazy. But do you realize that there was something? I know you don't do a lot on Twitter, so you don't have the answer to this already. So this is almost kind of like my little trivia question for you. There was something that happened in this game in Week 10 of the 2021 NFL season for the Pittsburgh Steelers that hasn't happened since the end of the season of 2017. This game, I'm not even going to give you a chance to answer because it's kind of random. This is the first game it's less than 4 years now. Remember, less than 4 years. None of the offensive players that started for the Steelers divisional round game in 2017 against the Jaguars played on offense for the Steelers. They're all gone. The only two that are even left on the roster is Juju on IR and Ben, who was on the COVID list. Mm-hmm. No offensive players from 2017. And when it comes to defense, you know how many starters were the same? 3. Cam, TJ, Joe Hayden. That's it. That's it. So I know Jeff had a question because I saw someone ask it on Twitter that I'm sure he mentioned in his mailbag segment for Let's Ride. If you are interested in that, make sure that's going to be audio only podcast early Wednesday morning. Make sure you check that out. If you're not part of the Ride or Die crew, you need to be. I don't miss an episode. But someone asked this question. I'm like, oh, I'd love to answer this one. And I'm like, I didn't send that stat out to Jeff until after I knew he had already recorded his show, because the question was, should the Steelers just kind of turn this into a rebuild season? I'm like, the Steelers have been rebuilding without people noticing. They've got nobody left from that team in 2017 on offense. I mean, Ben Roethlisberger, who wasn't there this week, and Juju, who's gone. That's it. And on defense, you only have 3. Because Stephon Tuitt's not back this year. They have rebuilt, but because it wasn't we're tearing it all down, we're terrible and we're going to draft high kind of rebuild, you don't necessarily notice it as much. And the Steelers they've been in rebuild mode with that. You just don't think about it because it's been Ben Roethlisberger the whole time. So that's something that I wanted to point out. So that's kind of a big deal. Now, it doesn't mean the Steelers shouldn't have won this game. They definitely should have won this game. But I also want to give kudos to Jeffrey Benedict, who almost had it exactly right 3 weeks ago when he's predicted during the bye week that the next 3 games, the Steelers were going to come out, they're going to beat the Browns, then they're going to turn around, they're going to beat the Bears, and then he predicted they were going to lose to the Lions. He even had it in his article, in his staff pick article, and then changed it when it wasn't Ben because he thought that the team might rally a little bit more, which I did as well. I thought they'd do better because I was more worried about the Bears let down against the Lions. I felt that wasn't going to be there. Now I think you might have been the only staff member other than Andrew who was 0 for whatever, who's still 0 for whatever because he didn't get it right. You were the only ones who then took the Lions.
Yep, I did.
After that, just because yeah.
My whole reasoning there was that the Ben out came so late.
Yeah, which I understand. I agree there. If it's the other way around where Ben's back in late, is that a problem? I don't think so. They showed that last year in Cincinnati. So, yeah. So this is kind of what this Steelers team is. They're scrappy. They're not going to overpower and dominate anybody. I mean, even the defense has some holes in it that they're working on improving to fill if everyone's healthy. So this is not a perfect team, as a lot of people can realize this. And that's why you're going to have games like you did this week. But what you got to do is you've got to stop and move on. Speaking of stop, move on, I want to take a break because we're not done talking about buys, because we talked about specifically this week. I want to talk about not buys. Why did I say buys? Ties. There you go. We're going to talk about ties. We talked about this tie specifically. We're going to talk about ties in general in sports because of a conversation I had electronically today. So we're going to say, is a tie in sports something that they should even that we should even be having in professional sports. So we're going to answer that question, talk about a couple of things, talk about this upcoming game in the second half. So if you're with us on the audio side, go ahead and click on over to part 2. If you're with us here on YouTube or Facebook Live, give us a few moments and we'll be right back. Pittsburgh Steelers fans, welcome back to part 2 of the Scho Bro Show. I'm behind the steel curtain editor, Dave Schofield. With me, as always, is my big brother, Rich. How's it going, Rich? It's just...
yeah, whatever.
Yeah. You know what? You know how it's going? It's going just like a tie. It's like...
just like a tie.
Yeah. It's like, do you really want to say, oh, you didn't lose? No.
The kid got over and I was like,
no.
Really? That's what I did with my Sunday afternoon?
You know what? And you are proving my point. I had a very interesting, and it wasn't like frustrating or nasty or anything conversation. It was an email back and forth exchange of just ideas with someone that contacted me talking about buys. I think it was in response to
buys or ties.
Huh? What did I say this time?
You said buys.
Why do you keep saying buys?
Why do you keep saying buys? It's ties.
I don't know. I'm operating on. I've been up a really long time. I was up way earlier than I normally am.
I don't want to hear it.
But we're just going to get it. It's ties. It's ties. It's ties. Okay. Talking about ties. It's from Australia. It was kind of in response to last night's hangover show and the kiss your sister thing. And he laid out a scenario of like, what's wrong with a tie? What's wrong with a tie in professional sports? We have them all the time. He's using examples of course, we know soccer, rugby, cricket, all these things. Is like, we just realize that sometimes, hey, you're going to go in and both teams are going to battle and they're just going to be even and you're going to end in a tie. And I'm like, yeah, that's got to be a different cultural thing, because in the U.S., no, we don't handle ties well, do we?
No. Because I'd rather be happy that we won or mad that we lost. Don't give me this in between.
And I was kind of laying it out for him. Like, here's the deal. I'm going for the 4 major professional sports in the U.S. is NFL, MLB, NBA, NHL. Currently, the NFL was the only one where a game could end in a tie.
Mm-hmm.
That's it. That's all.
Then
why is MLS not up in there? Because you know what? I say it all the time. I think the first time I ever heard it was my father-in-law said, he's like, who wants to go watch a game for 90 minutes of people running up and down the field, knowing going in that it could end in a 0-0 tie? You're just like, what am I doing with those 120 minutes of my life that I just lost? You know what I'm saying? So do you feel that a tie is something that we should not be having in professional sports?
Well, let me take it even a little bit of a step further.
Okay.
Let's talk about football.
Okay.
You play Pee-wee football, your Pop Warner stuff, on up, middle school, high school, college. None of them end in ties.
Do they? My son's basketball season getting ready to start. I'm actually coaching. You'll never guess who I'm coaching with.
I don't know who.
One Jefferson Hartman.
I was going to say Jeff Hartman, but that's scary.
His daughter and my son are supposed to be put on the same team for us to coach together one of their teams. But anyway, I didn't coach a team last year. They'll end in a tie. In softball tournaments that I schedule and help run, if you're playing round robin games, you don't go to extra innings. You can tie in a round robin game, but you can't tie in a bracket game. So there's ties in some other things, but like you say, in football, I don't think any of them end in ties, do they?
When you played, this is a funny term to use for you, but when you played Pee-wee football, you didn't end in ties.
I don't know that we ever went to overtime. I can't remember of a game that we ever did, but I know they didn't. It was what they did in high school. It's Kansas City tiebreaker.
Yes.
First and goal from the 10. Both
yes.
teams get it first and goal from the 10.
Correct.
That's what they do. Now, That's not true on every level, because I coached freshman and JV football. They would end in ties. There was no overtime in them. So we're just like, we got to get it done. So, which kind of played into your strategy. But in professional sports, I feel that was what was holding the NHL back for a long time, and where it almost, I mean, they had other issues going on with the league and the way it was run and whatnot. But I think fans were dissatisfied with games ending in a tie. When the prices are what they are for a game, and this is all about money. It's always all about money. We know this, but I mean, the 4 professional sports in the United States and Canada, because you got Canada with some of these.
We'll blame Canada then.
We'll blame Canada, yep. So it's their fault. But with those 4,
Michael Beck,
they are
with the program.
Other than like English Premier Soccer, this is where the money lies in these professional sports. So when it costs so much to go to a game, fans don't want to go to a game and then leave, and you're like, it's a tie. I still haven't got to talk to Brian about it to see, how deflating was it with everyone leaving the stadium. They're like, do we just pay money to see this and nobody won?
No, not just pay money to see this. We paid money to sit here in this cold rain,
and watch
this.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, exactly.
So that's why the NHL during the regular season, they do the 5-minute overtime, all that. Have you watched the 3-on-3 overtime that they've been doing in recent years? Oh my goodness.
What?
In the NHL, it's 3-on-3 in overtime.
No.
It is insane.
I can tell.
It is.
I've watched hockey, but I couldn't tell you the last time I've watched a hockey game that ended in a tie.
Well, because they don't. Because
but what I mean is tied at the end of regulation.
Oh yeah. Well, I do, because I'm following the Pens, and they've been a lot of overtime games for this year. They do the 5-minute overtime. It's 3-on-3. I mean, it's just breakaway to breakaway to breakaway to breakaway. That's all it is for 5 minutes. Nothing but breakaways and who's going to score first. I really like that. They're like, hey, let's just try to do it. And then even if you can't score after that, then they do the penalty shots to see which team gets one more point than the other. And same with the overtime. It's 1 point over the other. So I think that really helped the NHL, because you don't want to, when tickets are that expensive, you don't want to go and spend that much money to end in a tie. Now, the NFL has the possibility of a tie, and I understand why they do. And you can argue whether you like the 10 minutes, the 15 minutes, what you want to do with that. I understand why they do it, because you only play a game once a week, and you need that much recovery time in order to get back to play the next week. So, and competitive, they say competitive advantage or disadvantage over playing such a long game. Cry me a river when the Steelers are playing the game 6 days later and the Lions are playing one 14 days later. That's another factor that went into this tie that a lot of people aren't remembering. Steelers are coming off of a short week, and the Lions are coming off their bye. I mean, how much more of a disadvantage can you put a team, other than if you would have flipped it and made them go on the road for it? I mean, that's it. So you have that. So to say to play that extra time, but I also understand as the game wears on and you're out there playing that long, there is a possibility of more injuries, and you're like, 10 extra minutes. Is it really that much time for injury? It's how much physical exertion you've already put out on the field,
right.
And with limited energy left in the tank, that's when something can happen. You can overextend. Next thing you know, you're reaching, you don't have enough time because of your energy to take that one extra step. You're reaching to make a tackle. And what do you know? You grab the guy with the horse collar and you pull him down and you end his season, like what happened in New Orleans. You don't want to see stuff like that. So, but that could happen at any time of the game anyway. But I understand the argument behind it. So whether you like it or not, it is what it is. But at least, I mean, they tweaked it to where a field goal on the first drive doesn't end it. I like that they added that. But I mean, if you go that many possessions, I mean, look, let's not even count Detroit's last play. That would have given them a fourth possession. They had 3 possessions. The Steelers had 3 possessions, and no one could score a point. What more can you say? You really did give a chance. And out of all those games and all those overtime games this year, that's the first one to end in a tie. Do you think the overtime does a nice job of having NFL games not end in a tie the way they do it.
Yeah. You're going to see ties about as often as we did when we played first score wins and they played for a full 15 minutes.
Yeah.
Or whatever. They happen. They do happen very seldom.
Yeah.
It just sucks when they still do.
Yeah. And the conversation I was having with the person today, they said they wanted the NFL to go to no overtime. If you're tied at the end of regulation, it's tied. I'm like, man, that would be 14 ties. Well, I don't know if teams would have played it the same way, knowing that there wasn't an overtime. You might have been going for 2 on the last play because you'd rather win than, you'd rather win or lose rather than draw, things like that. And they don't play overtime in preseason games. So that kind of gives you an indication how they would do that. So my thing was, I'm like, at least do an overtime, at least try to find a winner, at least do this to try to get a winner. Then he had some other interesting proposals of ways to do this. And I'm like, this just goes to show culturally we are really far apart. Then he asked a really good question I'm going to answer on StatGeek. But even said something, even mentioned the notion of a tie in the playoffs. Playoffs? I'm like, how could you have a tie in the playoffs? And his answer was the lower seeded team has to win the game outright. A tie goes to the high seed. And apparently there might even be some professional sports like cricket or something like that do this. I'm not exactly sure if he was referencing an actual league somewhere or not. And I'm just like, that is awful. That is, you mean to tell me that people could have paid thousands of, how many thousands of dollars in tickets and everything to go watch a game where in the postseason, and then it means absolutely nothing.
Yeah, it was like the game. It was
like the game was never played because the higher seed moves on. Yeah, I can't do that. Then he actually threw the notion of, hey, how about the team that scores last actually gains an extra point for what they did and they win the game because they scored last and came through in the clutch. I'm like, you're not awarding points for things that didn't happen. Yeah. I understand trying to go with a solution, but to me, there is no solution that keeps overtime out of the picture. I like that the NFL goes to overtime. I like that most of them end in the way they do. Ties still are not fun, but they don't happen even every year. I'm trying to think the last time where there was 2 ties in a year. It just doesn't happen a lot. So we kind of went off on that a little bit, but I thought that was a pretty good topic to discuss. So NFL overtime rules might not be perfect, but I'm glad they have them rather than the alternative. So yeah, ties suck. Rich, anything else you want to talk about from this past week, or you want to just go ahead and
I don't want to talk. No, I don't want to talk anything more about this past week.
Yes, it's just, it's funny. Some people are like, burn the tape and move on. I don't want to burn the tape. I want to burn the tape. I don't want to go back and watch this game again as a fan. I want the Steelers. I want them every day to have to come in an hour early and be forced to watch this tape again.
Yeah.
And say, until you do better, this is your punishment. You have to watch this tape of you playing every day. If just that's just me.
That's cruel and unusual punishment.
Cool or cruel? Cruel. Yeah, don't want to mess it up. Like I keep saying buys instead of ties. Well, then the NFL's had a lot of buys, but they only won ties so far this year. All right, so the Chargers.
Yeah, and you know what? I'm sorry. I'm never going to be able to call them the Los Angeles Chargers. Yeah. You know why? Because I always just hear the San Diego Superchargers. Yeah.
With the governor, let's go Chargers.
There you
go. Sorry. They are the San Diego Chargers who play their games in LA. They don't even have their fans in LA. Their fans are still in San Diego. They're just like, we're just going to leave you there. We're going to go play here, but still cheer for us. Well, so along with those people too? No, they're not cheering for us anyway. So it's just very weird. I don't understand the West Coast dynamic. But the Steelers have done all right traveling specifically to play the Chargers. Not so well against other West Coast teams, but they've done all right against the Chargers. The last time they went out there, it was the start of duck season.
Yeah, but the last time they went out there, there's been something that's been a part of the Steelers having great success against the Chargers that's no longer there.
Yeah,
and that would be Old Man Rivers.
Yes, yeah, no more Old Man Rivers.
They've always had Old Man Rivers number.
Yeah, unless they put John Bostic on Keenan Allen on 3rd and 5,
and let the line false start 7,000 times and not throw a flag.
Yeah. We'll leave that one go.
But yeah.
So hey, but this was from the topic we just moved on from, but I want to bring it up because it's super chat from Isaac Aguilera. $5. He says, why not have both kickers go out and kick from the 25, and if both make it, move it fit back 5 yards each time until one misses and the other doesn't. That's as much as of a thing to do as a shootout.
Yeah.
But individual games mean so much more in the NFL than they do the NHL based on the number that you play. So it's at least that would be at least some part of football. But here's the other thing. You don't just let them kick. You have to snap it and kick it and not get it blocked. You run an actual play of kicking.
Yeah.
It would never go. I'll be honest with you. It'd be entertaining. It really would say, okay, game over after overtime. Here's what we're going to do. I mean, look what college did, where they went to, after 2 overtimes, it's just 2-point conversion tries. I watched the end of that Penn State Illinois game when I saw that it was going crazy and turned it on real quick. Yeah. That was where it was just 2 point. Each team gets a 2-point conversion try. First one to convert when the other one doesn't wins. Okay. That's almost the same as the kicker thing.
Yeah.
The question is, would you want a winner that bad instead of a tie that you were willing to do that, where it was at least a football play? 7 shots. I mean, you're basically playing 7 shots to win the game, like the Steelers do at practice.
Yep.
You could do something like that. So, or you could just have a tie in the regular season. If it was the kicker thing, I would have felt pretty good about the Steelers. I will say this. I know some people were complaining. They're like, oh, the Steelers, it was cold and windy and rainy, and there was only 19 seconds left. Why did the Steelers even try to run a play for 2 yards or whatever and get closer when Freiermuth fumbled? Why didn't they just kick? Do you want to know why they didn't just kick? Because it was 57 yards, and it was cold and windy and rainy. Everything you just said, and it was, I mean,
I wish we'd have thrown it down the field more.
Try the 57-yarders. That's the other thing with that Freiermuth play. I didn't like it, not as much because he fumbled, because even if he didn't, they gained a yard.
Yeah.
Why even use the time to go from a 57 to a 56? Why risk the fumble for a yard?
For a yard. Yes.
Yep.
There you go.
Yeah. Yeah. So, people, I haven't been paying attention to the live chat already. So, I thought we were moving on from Detroit. The only reason we came back to it is because we had a super chat. So, the Chargers this week. Rich, when you go to predict the score, I'm not asking you to do it yet. How in the world are you going to do it? There's so many factors in this game that we don't know about right now.
Do you really want me to do you really want me to tell you?
Yeah, I want you to answer the question. How are you going to even be able to do it?
I'm going to pull it out of my butt.
Okay. I'm just going to throw this score out there, and I'm going to assume that X person plays, X person doesn't, and this person is a game time decision. And we'll just eeny, meeny, miny, mo, who's it going to be, and see what they're going to do. There's for both teams now. I mean, before I thought it was just the Steelers. But I mean, when you have guys, the best thing about the Steelers was Minkah Fitzpatrick was the only player to go on the COVID list yesterday, and nobody went on today.
Yeah.
The Chargers had 2 guys go on today. Is it done?
Who knows?
Who knows? And I mean, the Steelers still could have someone like a Ben Roethlisberger that all of a sudden has symptoms and has to get tested again. That could happen. And the same thing could happen with the Chargers. we just don't know. So it could be one of those crazy things. I know earlier on some people said, "Oh, the Steelers, signed a quarterback to the practice squad." You know why they did? Coach Tomlin addressed that today, and people were like, "Oh, is there writing on the wall for somebody?" If they're going to be preparing this week, do you really want one of your two, and it's only going to be Rudolph and Haskins? Do you really want one of them having to be completely in charge of running the other team's stuff for the defense?
Yeah,
no. You bring in a quarterback, even if it's just for the week, for nothing more than to. I mean, this was a good guy to bring in. If you don't remember, this is the guy that in the preseason for the Jets threw the 60-yard Hail Mary to tie the game in their last preseason game. I mean, he can throw far. That's like a Justin Herbert to me. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but also I look at it from this standpoint. Ben's out now. We don't know if Ben's going to be back, right? What happens if Mason or Haskins happen to slide onto the COVID list?
Yeah.
Are you really going to walk into a game with one guy capable of quarterbacking your team?
And that's a very good point, and that's another reason to do it. But the Steelers did also say apparently they try to keep Ben, and people might think it's because they don't like each other. Apparently they try to keep Ben and Mason Rudolph kind of away from each other. So if there was a COVID issue, one wouldn't affect the other. I don't know, but yeah, but you bring up a very good point. That it was smart to do that. It's not like they brought him onto the roster, even though they had a spot. It's just it's on the practice squad. You've got somebody else that their job is to make sure what Los Angeles is doing. Almost did it. To give a good look to the defense and not have to worry about asking Haskins to do it. Yes, there were the reports that they were like, man, this is the way this guy warms up for an actual game. Come on, that they were kind of dissatisfied with that. Don't know if that was true. And honestly, at this point right now, I'm not really worried about it because that's not the issue. I know some people are screaming that they want Haskins, but one of the best things the Steelers have going for them is what Coach Tomlin talked about today, and that is there are more likes than dislikes between Ben Roethlisberger and Mason Rudolph, meaning they are more the same than they are different when it comes to what they do as a quarterback. So therefore, you don't have a lot that changes. Coach Tomlin says it's not like you're bringing in another quarterback that runs a 4-4.
Right.
You're not, you can have similar game plans for both guys. I don't know that you could do that with Haskins. So there you go. Hey, I just looked up and saw Zach Banner here in the live chat. John Knox did Zach Banner play on Sunday? What did he play? Like three special team snaps?
Three special team
snaps, which is funny because by the end of the game, they only had 6 offensive linemen, but they needed guards, and that's not Zach Banner. So that was it. So, this game on Sunday night. Well, first of all, I'm not looking forward to a Sunday night game. I know. Yeah. You like night games?
The one thing it does is it gives me the opportunity if I want to go hunting on Sunday, I could go hunt Sunday afternoon.
There you go.
Still get back and do the game.
If I end up with another flat tire like I did this past Sunday, it wouldn't affect the game, my preparedness for the game so much.
Right.
It was one of those days. I had one of those days in week 3 where nothing went right on game day for me, with stuff going on, and I was going to Jeff's to watch the game then, and it didn't work out. And things were even worse for this game day with me and everything going on in the morning. I'm just like, don't have a repeat of that. And it basically was when it ended up being a tie. So, Rich, anything else you want to say before we get into the scores, which are really random shot in the dark?
Well, and that would be your same way of talking much of anything about this game. Would be a random shot in the dark, because we could sit here and talk about, what we want to see them be able to do with Mason and this, that, and everything else. And we could get news on Saturday. Oh, guess what? Ben's playing tomorrow.
Yeah.
So,
okay. So let's do this before we get started. You ready?
Oh, hold on. George Teston. Asked that they open Sunday hunting in Maryland. George, yes, they've had that for several years now. It varies by county in terms of number of Sundays you can hunt. But actually, my county, almost every Sunday was available.
There you go.
So, yes, I can go hunting on Sunday.
There you go. Okay. Here we go. I'm going to ask you, Ben Roethlisberger, you think he plays?
I give him 60%.
60%?
Yep. A little better than a coin flip.
I'll go 80.
Okay.
I'll go 80. That I think is now the thing is we'll know as things go on if they report if he still has symptoms. All he's got to do is do the 2 negative tests. I think 24 hours. Is it 24 hours apart or 40? One of those hours.
24.
Apart. 24 hours apart. Mm-hmm. And if so, unless they said he had some symptoms, I don't know how severe symptoms are. If he's run down, then don't do it.
Right.
Don't think of Ben, just because if he's going to be a health risk being out there, make sure he can go. TJ Watt.
I think TJ Watt has a better chance to play this week.
I think, and we're saying this now before any practices. That's why it's really like taking shots in the dark. I'm surprised. Yeah, I believe that he has a chance as well. I mean,
yeah,
the fact that he thought maybe he could go back in the game is my biggest indication from it. So,
right.
Then here's the easy one: Kevin Dotson.
I don't know.
I say no way with the high ankle sprain.
That's what I meant. But when I said I don't know, I'm sitting there thinking I don't know what percentage I would even give him.
Yeah. I'm going 10% with Dotson.
Yeah.
Just those things, and it all depends on exactly the degree of it and everything. You just never know. But when you hear that, that's
now turn around to the other guard.
Okay, Trey Turner.
95.
That's the number I was thinking. The way Tomlin was talking today, it doesn't seem like they have any argument. And what's crazy is I would not be surprised if your other starter at guard is BJ Finney, who wasn't even active last week.
Correct.
Yes. So that Joe Hayden.
I think he's up there pretty high. Mm-hmm. I'd probably put him at 85 to 90.
I'm putting him about 65.
All right.
Just because of the position he plays, based on being the foot injury, that I'm going to go there.
Yeah, but if you got good weather out there in California, if they were playing in Pittsburgh, I'd be more likely to sit him.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
Of worry about injuring it worse, but.
Also, remember in that game that the last time they went to Los Angeles and played the Chargers, the infamous Rickroll game, if you remember that, where they tried to Rickroll with Renegade at the stadium, there was Steven Nelson didn't make the trip and Joe Hayden got hurt in game.
Oh, that's right.
And they still beat the Chargers out there, if you remember that. So, I'm trying to think. Minka Fitzpatrick.
Right now, I won't know until the week goes further on. So he's a coin flip.
Because you think he could get through the protocol, that he could get the tests?
He could get through the protocol if we'll know more as the week goes on, because we'll start to hear if he's been asymptomatic or what's going on with him. If he's been asymptomatic, he could get through the tests.
Yeah, being on Monday, the guys on Tuesdays are going to be tougher. So I think he could. I think he could. I'm going the coin flip. I'm going the 50-50. Chase Claypool. Last week, I said he was like at a 10% for me. I didn't think he was playing based on the possibility they were wondering if it was going to be season ending. So,
yeah, he's one I'm looking about 60.
I'm going to go as high as 70. I would have said lower, but Coach Tomlin,
yeah, I know.
In his press conference
pretty positive about him today too.
How about the two guys on the COVID list that got put on there today for the Chargers? Where would you say them? I don't know enough to know if they were symptomatic or anything.
30.
Yeah, just because it's Tuesday.
Yeah.
So that'll be interesting to see. So I just thought I'd throw that out there. Now that we know those percentages, I know we're running over a little bit now because I threw that out there. That helps me with your score to understand where you're coming from a little bit more based on who you feel may or may not play. You ready to give a score? Now, remember, for those of you in the live chat, don't put your score in there till I put it in the live chat. If not, I'm not going to read it. Might even have to go timeout. Okay? Rich, what's your score?
Okay, so my score is subject to change for the staff prediction.
Yes, you're not. I'm not holding you for this one.
Actually, no. My score guaranteed to change for the staff predictions. So right now I'm going to say the San Diego Superchargers 27, Steelers 24.
Close one out there. They've been in a lot of close games. They have been in a lot of close games. I'm going ahead and putting the score in there. So it's in the live chat now. Lots of close games for the Chargers. They've only had 2 games that weren't really close. I had it up here. That one was them getting blown out in Baltimore, and the other, they only had 2 games that weren't 1-score games. And the other one was, I got to find it. I can't remember. They won a game, I think maybe by more than what I thought, but I can't find it now. Oh no, wait, I found it. It's way over here. They won. What game was that? Against the Raiders. They won 28-14. But everything else was 1-score games, other than them getting blown out by the Ravens. Yeah. So we'll see what they do. I know we got scores coming, so I'm going to get to
better
it.
Get rolling.
George, he was up there first. He's ready to go. And if there's no team name, we assume we know that it's the Steelers. We were saying Steelers 20-14. Tyler Dubber says Steelers surprise us on offense and defense, and they say 26-28 Chargers. Okay, yep. But he's still saying that. Okay. Brian Brown says 23-20 Steelers. He says we got this if Bad goes shirtless. Bad's got to go. If Bad doesn't go shirtless, he's not picking him to win. Okay. Steel Dog 88 says Steelers 21-20 with Ben and TJ going to be another grinder. He says they're both going to play, and that's how it's going to turn out. Mark Tobin says Chargers 28-17. BMK Bully Bob Kennel says Steelers 27 Chargers 38. Doesn't have the confidence in the defense. Okay. George OTJ says 22-20. Of course, Steelers. John Moore says 24-21 Steelers. Tyler W said another tie in there.
Yeah, there you go.
Hey, if another tie, that's just like winning one and losing one. Okay. Dusk Thunder 9 says 21-17 Steelers. Richard Adamson says 21-14 Steelers. Okay. Lifelong Fan 07 says 17-10 Steelers. Henry Manuel says 16-13 Steelers. Clarence Washington says 17-14 Steelers. Boz kicks long kick with seconds left on the clock. That would be nice. The Sindine says 9-3. I'm assuming that's Steelers. That's very reminiscent of Buffalo. Okay. Kathy Ford says 20-17 Steelers. Darkstorm 1 says 13-24 Chargers, just because Ben is not likely to play. Okay. I don't know that I'd say he's not likely. I would say he's the way. Ben's even participating in all the virtual meetings, Coach Shalman said today. The bottom line is you just don't know. So the Steelers got to prepare as if he's not there. And then if he is, it's like, cool, bonus. I went all Wayne's World on that one. Sorry. EJ says 21-6 Steelers, that the D is going to show out. I have a lot more faith in that if I know that one Trent Jordan Watt's playing in the game. So we did not get as many scores as normal, and I think I know why.
Because nobody knows how to pick this game.
No one knows how to pick this game. No. We have just as much, if not as many people watching right now. They're like, yeah, I know about this.
Not at this point in the week.
Yeah. You can't make.
We've got too many question marks.
It's our tradition.
They've got too many question marks.
They've got the question marks.
It is very difficult to do it right now.
it's the tradition of the show that this is what we do
Oh,
to close
sure.
it out. So we've got to do it. But I mean, honestly, sometimes I think about mine on Tuesday night and I'm like, that's what I'm going to go with Thursday. And I stick with it. I've got no idea. It's just one of those tough things. And will we get a little bit more of an indication tomorrow after the injury report?
Oh, yeah.
Will we get a little bit more on Thursday?
Yeah.
Hopefully. But really, when it comes, I mean, that'll tell us a little bit about TJ, a little bit about Chase, a little bit about Joe Hayden. It's not going to tell us anything about Ben or Minka.
Nope.
That means nothing. Remember, they're not going to show up on an injury report, just like Ben wasn't on the inactive list last week. They're not on the roster right now because of that. The Steelers have the opportunity to put two more people in the roster. They just, like last week, they had a 53-man roster. One was a practice squad elevation, and then Ben was out. It couldn't be a COVID elevation. They had already designated it. But there was no reason, so they could have added another player on the roster in place of Ben, but if they're just going to be inactive, then why bother? And it's kind of the same deal with this week. So Tyler says, Vegas says Chargers by 5. Yeah, it's now gone from 3.5 to 5. But that line, I said it when I did the betting preview article. What day was that? Monday morning, which I'm forced to do it on Monday mornings now because of something with SB Nation when no one cares about it. We don't care about that until usually Tuesday. This line is going to change a bunch.
Sure it is.
It's going to change a bunch. So yeah, it's just one of those things. Oh, the question is, Steelers fans are only as confident as their last game. When the team comes out and plays well, you're confident that they can do it again. When the team comes out and plays terrible, you're not confident that they'll ever do anything different. I will remind you of this, and it could be fantastic or it could be the most miserable thing ever, depending on how it turns out. No team in the NFL, especially the Pittsburgh Steelers, plays the game the same from one week to the next. You really don't. I mean, Name a team that's overly consistent right now. And even if they're very consistent, it's still not exactly the same. The team that shows out to play one week, you're not going to get the same team even the next week. That's why it's even hard when you go to the Super Bowl. It's like, wow, this team just showed up and played that great in the conference championship game. Just because you did then doesn't mean you're going to play that well the next game. It just doesn't happen. So as bad as the Steelers played, you're hoping that the only thing that they can do is play better this week. Right?
That's right.
That's kind of my final thoughts. Rich, do you have any kind of final thoughts for us?
There's been weird losses all over. We should we have beat Detroit? Sure, we should have, but we also didn't lose to Detroit. The Ravens lost to the Dolphins.
Yeah.
Did anybody think that, Tampa was going to lose to the WTF?
No.
And yes, I call them that all the time.
Yeah, you call the WTF.
That's, it's why they play the games. It's why it's not just, paper winners. You go out and do it on the field.
That's exactly why Survivor football was so difficult to do, and why the 446 entries into our contest are down to 10.
Yep.
Down to 10. Down to 10 now. If you didn't catch that article came out of BehindTheSteelCurtain.com today. Down to 10. So if you're one of those 10, you have a 10%. I mean, you had a 1 in 446 shot when you started. You're down to a 1 in 10 shot to win that signed Joe Hayden football. So, and it's the last 2 weeks, it's been absolutely insane.
Hey, yep. If you're good, I'm about to take us out. Okay.
Oh, take us out.
Because this is what I'm thinking. We do not know what is going to go on every week in every game. That's part of what brings us back.
Yeah.
Right? Come back. And I know one thing. Sunday night, a little after 8 o'clock, I'm going to be sitting on my couch, glued to the TV, watching the Steelers versus the Chargers.
Yes, we are.
Can't wait.